who's going to Vegas. Obviously, we talked about the Mavs, Thunder, and the Magic Bucks on our Wednesday episode, but we didn't get a chance to talk about the Hawks, Knicks, and the Warriors, Rockets just yet. We'll briefly touch on some of these games, and then I'll give my opinions on who I think's going to win it, what I think's going to happen. So I went 3-4 in my picks. I picked the Magic. I'm sorry, I picked the Bucks to win. I did pick the Thunder to win, unfortunately. I picked the Knicks to win. We're going to talk about them here in a second. And I did pick the Rockets to win. And I picked the Rockets to win the whole thing. We'll talk about whether or not I still think that that's the case here in a second. But the Hawks beat the Knicks 108-100, led by a monster third quarter for the Atlanta Hawks, where they completely turned this game on its head. Trae Young finishes the game with 22 points and 11 assists. Of course, Trae Young in the Garden, he's rolling dice on the logo after the game. He's skipping after throwing a lob pass to basically seal the game. I love that shit. I really do. I think that's awesome. I think that's incredible. Is it a rivalry in the sense that it's a Hawks-Knicks rivalry? Is there anybody who's even on this Knicks roster that was playing with them when that playoff series? I'm looking at their team, and I actually don't think so. Like, was Jericho Sims there maybe? How long ago was that? 3 years ago? I don't even think he was there. I don't think a single player on this current Knicks roster was on that team. But it's a rivalry in the sense that Knicks fans hate him. And then I love the Knicks fans is like, yeah, we don't give a shit about Trae Young. It's like, dude, you guys chant fuck Trae Young at like random sporting events. Like, you guys definitely care. It's all right to care. It's fun. It's a rivalry. That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it enjoyable. Okay, Mitchell Robinson. Okay, but Mitchell Robinson's not playing in this game. It's sort of similar to like the Suns-Mavs rivalry, where it's like that rivalry is not as fun as it could be because I think Luka and D-Book are just, they're friendly now. But beyond that, nobody from that playoff series is even on the other teams anymore. Like the Mavs have what? Luka, Dwight Powell, and Maxi Kleber, and that's it. I think the Suns literally only have D-Book, and that's it. Spence, okay, that's true. Spence is back. That's right. You are right. That would win one ear, not the other for me. Okay, so the Hawks beating the Knicks. The Hawks continue this insane. I think they're 6-1 now against the Knicks, Celtics, Bucks, and Cavs. And man, I really do like their team quite a bit. I mean, they're 14-12. Obviously, we knew that they didn't have an incentive to tank this season, so we knew they weren't going to bottom out. But this is, they made the swing for DeJounte Murray, and I thought it was going to work. Trying to pair him with like an all-star level backcourt mate, even though DeJounte is nowhere near all-star level. But trying to pair him with something like that, in theory, kind of made some sense to me at the time. I knew at the time DeJounte was a little bit of an overrated defender, but I still thought that it would make sense. And obviously it didn't, and a lot of that has to do with DeJounte Murray. I just don't think it was like I wouldn't want DeJounte Murray on my basketball team. I'm trying to think of like a winning, contending basketball team who's like, we want DeJounte Murray. Like that's what's going to push us over the edge is the DeJounte Murray. I can't think of any. And so the way that they've just, beat out, that was a big dub for you. So the way that the Hawks have just retooled is just put a bunch of athletes around Trae, let Trae be a facilitator, and Jalen Johnson, man. I mean, this guy's fucking incredible. Jalen Johnson had a bit of a slow start to the season, but I mean, he's incredible, and he plays so incredibly well next to Trae Young. How many baseline cuts turned into lobs is just Jalen Johnson get a game from Trae Young? At least three. Where the Hawks will run a high screen and roll. They did this all game, and then the Knicks would play at the level. They get the ball in the middle of the floor. Jalen Johnson is cutting to the basket. Good luck. Good fucking luck. Also a monster on the boards, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. He throws some lobs. I was thinking about getting a compilation of all of the lobs Jalen Johnson has thrown this year. But he's quickly becoming one of my favorite players in the NBA, Jalen Johnson. He's got a dog to him that I love. I love any player that's got a little dog in him. And how about DeAndre Hunter? I mean, I was writing DeAndre Hunter off as a fucking catastrophe contract. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he, struggles to stay on the basketball court, but He's been great, and he was great in this game for them, 24 points. And Trey, scoring-wise, it hasn't been where it's been in years past. That's exactly what I was talking about right there. How many plays like these where a guy's just cutting baseline and Trey's going to find that guy 10 times out of 10? 10 times out of 10. Trey's going to find that guy. But Trey's scoring hasn't really been there, but his playmaking has been on point. I mean, he's been an underappreciated playmaker his whole career. You guys know, I've defended Trae Young every step of the way. I really do feel like he's underappreciated in a lot of ways. I don't understand why teams just don't play Trae straight up. His shooting splits are horrible, but can pass the ball really well, so why not just make him become a scorer? Well, it depends on, your defensive personnel. Do you have guys who can fight over screens? If you don't, and by the way, Mikal Bridges was getting fucking touched in this game. I mean, are we really concerned about that? Hawks players all look the same besides Clint. Yeah, they do all look similar. It's funny whenever you're watching a game, the commentators mix them up all the time. They'll be like, Dyson Daniels diving on the floor. Oh, I'm sorry, that was Ricochet. I feel like people are not talking about Trey's efficiency enough. How bad it is. Yeah, no, I mean his scoring has not been good, but I still think he's been a very impactful player because of his playmaking, his ability to put pressure on defenses and what that leads to. Not every team has the personnel to do that. Yeah, and I mean, ideally the Knicks would, but dude, I mean, Mikal's been fucking bad on defense. Like, I know that he's maybe not him finishing whatever he finished in Defensive Player of the Year with the Suns. What was he, top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting that 1 year with Phoenix? That's probably not who he is. That's probably not who he is as a basketball player. Second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Jesus Christ. But dude, something's off with him. I don't know if was like he plays more than anybody in the league. Is that something that's getting to him? I'm not sure. I saw a stat going around. It was like the last 5 games. The league leaders in minutes per game, 4 out of the 5 players were Knicks players. Yeah. Well, I don't know if it has something to do with that. I don't know if him going to Brooklyn, becoming the number one option offensively, and him sort of adjusting his game because of that, and maybe taking a little bit off defensively has sort of led to this long-term result where he just can't tap back into what he was defensively. And, I never thought he was a top 2 Defensive Player of the Year level defender, okay? That season where he finished that high, Luka dominated him in that postseason series. Whatever, Luka dominates a lot of guys, so you can't hold that against him. But a big reason for that was he wasn't strong enough. He wasn't strong enough. Bro's so bad, people think he got hurt. No, he's started. I don't know what's his starting streak. It's insane. But man, he's so slow. Like, that's the problem defensively. He's so slow. He's so flat-footed. I mean, Trey was getting by him with one dribble. It takes him 50 seconds to get over a fucking screen and recover. It's insane. It's actually jarring how slow he is on the basketball court. They took him off Trey at one point. So yeah, the Hawks, they're an impressive team to me. I don't know what their ceiling is. I don't think it's very high. They're probably a play-in team, but I like the way that they built this roster. That's for sure. They traded one crossing, got to the free throw. He got a free lay because Mikal is so slow. Yeah, it's concerning. I mean, you gave up 5 first-round picks for him. It's definitely concerning. And what's funny is I think his offensive woes, which I think is what everyone is focused on, especially early before the season started when we saw that jumper. It could be better, but it hasn't been bad. Like, he's been pretty much automatic in the mid-range. He's got that turnaround mid-range jumper cooking. The defense is what's alarming for sure. Because everyone's going to blame Cat. Everyone's always going to blame Cat anytime this Knicks defense looks bad. And I thought Cat was fucking awesome in this game defensively. I really did. But it all starts on the perimeter. Hawks turn around. The roster has been awesome. Hopefully Kobe Buff can be nice as well. Yeah, I want my guy Kobe to make some noise, but I doubt it at this point. He's only 26, right? Mikal? That sounds right. I mean, he was a bit older as a rookie. He's 28, yeah. 28. Cat fouls too much even when he plays good defense. Yeah, he was in foul trouble in this game and ended up fouling out, but he's been pretty good about that this year. Cat's been fucking incredible. So the thing with the Knicks, I'm not ready to give up on the Knicks at all. I picked them to finish second in the Eastern Conference. You know, obviously they're not as good as the Celtics. And the way the Cavs are playing this year, they're not as good as the Cavs. Can they become as good as the season progresses? What are they defensively? Last I looked, they were middle of the pack defensively. Is that still where they're at? Cat will let you down when it matters. Does Luke even want him to win MVP? Even want to win MVP? I'm not sure. The Knicks currently find themselves, 16th in defensive rating in the league. It's not catastrophically bad. It's been top 3 over the past 2 weeks. Not catastrophically bad. Can their defense... So traditionally, if you want to be a real contender, you have to be top 10 in defense. It's pretty much, a set in stone rule. You have to be top 10 defensively, at least. Usually you got to be top 5 to be a real contender. Can the Knicks contend with the league average or maybe above league average defense? I think their offense is good enough. So the question to me would be, can their offense be good enough consistently to make up for their miscues defensively? And in a game like this, they didn't shoot the 3-ball well, really. Jalen Brunson, he's still been good this year. He's playing at an all-star level, unquestionably. But, last year he was a top 5 vote getter in MVP. He hasn't been playing at that level so far this season. And he'll get to that. Cat's been awesome. But I don't think they're a top 2 team in the East anymore. And I don't... The Cavs have their questions that need to be answered in the playoffs. They need to exercise some demons when they get to the postseason for sure. But it's difficult for me to think how they can fix this on the fly to get there, especially if Mikal looks like this. If Mikal looks like this, it's a completely different conversation. If this is Mikal Bridges now, that's a trade we'll be talking about for a long time. A long time. But I'm interested to see what they look like when Mitch Rob comes back. And there was a report that he's not going to be back now until closer to the trade deadline, which that's interesting. Because I think in theory, you'd like to see what your team looks like for like a solid few weeks with him in the mix, so you can figure out what to do at the trade deadline. I know he's never going to be healthy, but man, not ready to give up on the Knicks just yet. But I'm definitely concerned. Like them being the second contender in the East, I think feels like that ship has sailed. Maybe Warriors and Rockets. This game was madness. So this game right here is where everyone plays the same. I don't know how people aren't watching who say that. Again, people are just looking for justifications as to why they're not watching anymore. And why they don't feel the same anymore. There's no fucking way in hell you can watch the Houston Rockets play a game. There's no way you can watch the Hawks-Knicks game and then tune into this game and say everyone plays the exact same way. No way. Absolutely no way. 91-90. I thought this was a really fun game. Sometimes you see scores like this, and it's just so gross offensively that it's just hard to watch. But then sometimes you see scores like this, and the defenses are so tuned in that it is a great viewing experience, which is what I thought this was for sure. Every bucket was like fucking pulling teeth out. Every single basket of this game. You think the Bridges trade was shaky so far? Hell yeah, it's been shaky, bro. They traded 5 first-round picks for him. So let's start here. Let's start here with this game. Schedule tip-off, 8:30 p.m. Tips off about 8:55. All right. Okay. Whatever, so be it. But the Rockets in this game, you watch a game like this, and it's like, fuck me, man. If the Rockets could figure out a way to get that go-to bucket getter when their offense stagnates, because that's the big problem for this team. It looked like the Rockets were going to run away with this game at points in the first half. Like they're younger, they're more athletic than this Warriors team, and it felt like they were going to run them out of the gym in the first half of this game. And then they hit these lulls offensively, man. And the Warriors start hitting threes. Buddy Hield gets hot in the third quarter. And all of a sudden the Warriors find themselves up. And you're searching for that guy who can get you points if you're Houston. And sometimes it's difficult to find. I don't think it's just a go-to bucket guy. Their offense throughout the game just isn't it. But it would look much better if they had a guy where it's like, all right, go get me some points. So, like, I'm being honest. If you just swapped Jalen Green and Zach LaVine, if you just flipped them, I feel so much better about this Rockets team. And it's a struggle to find a LaVine home. But in the Şengün thing, so Şengün had a great game in this one. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists. He's been so much better defensively this year. And he made strides last year defensively for sure, but he's been so much better defensively this year. So you saw even late in the game, Şengün, they needed points. They tried to go to Şengün post-ups on Draymond Green, and Draymond Green was sunning him. I mean, Draymond Green was little babying him in the post. It doesn't feel like it's a reliable enough, option offensively for the Rockets at times. But with all that being said, this Rockets team is so much fun to watch. I think they're my favorite watch in the league currently. I picked them to win this whole tournament. Reason being, 1-game elimination. They are probably the most athletic team in the sport. They just play just a tenacious defensive approach where they're all up in your fucking face. They'll switch everything. They switch early. They switch often. They throw so many athletes at you, so much length at you. Realistic upgrade on James Green. Who's James Green? Oh, Jalen Green. I have seen Rockets fans, not Bulls fans, Rockets fans toss out a Jalen Green for Zach LaVine swap. I don't know how to make it work financially beyond that, but would Houston do that though? I don't think so. I don't think the front office would do that. But it is interesting to think about. But another factor here is that I want to talk about. Jabari Smith, obviously, 3rd overall pick a couple of years ago. There was that weird, I lost a lot of money that day. I was in Europe around the time of this draft. I lost a lot of money because Shams, and this should have been fucking investigated. Seriously. This should have been investigated. When Shams was working for whatever he was working for, Stadium or whoever, and they were sponsored by FanDuel, and he tweets out hours before the draft that it looked like the Magic were going to go, like they were really considering Jabari Smith, even though it was talked about, like it was Paolo Banchero, and I said, all right, fuck it. The odds for Jabari Smith are great. I'm going to put some money down on this. And wouldn't you know it, Paolo ends up going 1st overall. Should have been investigated. Genuinely should have been investigated. Betting on the draft, call the hotline. That was a low point, too, because it was like 4 o'clock in the morning when the draft happened. I wasn't even awake. I woke up the next morning to see it. That was bad. But Jabari Smith, it feels like he's discovering his role a little bit this season. It's maybe not what you drafted him 3rd overall to do. The idea of him being this incredibly versatile 6'11" guy who can get his shot off at any time, similar to Michael Porter Jr. That was a common comparison, but somebody who is great defensively as well. And this could be a small ball 5 for you. This guy can play the 3 for you. Like, there are so many different things you could do with this guy, right? It's probably not going to be that. But at 6'11", if he's somebody who can space the floor, consistently knock down shots, and be engaged and locked in defensively, which he has been so far this season, that's a championship level 4 for you. You know, that's a championship level 4. And yeah, he's about to turn 22, so he's still young, but why don't the Rockets do Fred VanVleet for Levine? Fred VanVleet's way too important for them, man. Way too important. They can't just get rid of their floor general. They just can't get rid of him. I just love watching the Rockets bench during games. Their coaching staff. They are the most probably in your face coaching staff in the league. Obviously with Ime Udoka, but just their assistants as well. And it's I like it. I like when the coaching staffs get pissed off after mistakes. They're fucking throwing their play sheet on the ground. I like seeing it. I'm here for it. So you had Steve Kerr after this game crying and complaining about the officiating. Nobody feels sorry for the Warriors. The final play of the game, or the final foul, I guess I should say, where Jalen Green's on the ground and they call a foul. I don't even remember who the foul was on, but they call a foul. I think it was Kuminga diving to the floor. It was a foul. Nobody wants to see that called. Nobody wants to see that called in that moment. Okay? That's the problem. Was it Looney? Did you see the video? Ref says sorry to Curry. Yes, I did see that as well. Nobody wants to see that foul called in that moment. But for the Warriors, Steph hit some big shots in this game. The final shot going to Podziemski. Pods is fucking not for me. Not for me. I thought it was a damn joke that he got first team all rookie over D-Live last year. Not for me, man. No. No. I feel like I'd be frustrated all the fucking time if that guy was on my team. Frustrated all the time. And the fact that they didn't want to trade him for Lauri Markkanen. Sheesh. Potts is a jab step 3 with 4 minutes left. Thought it was over. Then he sucked. Well, he'll hit a shot like that. But then, the ball gets to him, and the ball just stops. He's got to do 6 or 7 jab steps before he's moving the ball again. Defensively, it feels like he's lost all the time. And he's like a brick, man. He's a fucking brick. He doesn't shoot well. Oh, I didn't even realize this. His Instagram name is Jab Pods. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, EAB Pods. All right, never mind. I thought it was Jab Pods. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But you watch a game like this, and it's clear like this is the Jimmy Butler team for me. It's just the glaring weakness that is there, where they don't have a reliable second option. They don't have a reliable second option. Jonathan Kuminga is not that. Not a reliable, consistent second option. Do you feel good? Like when you watch, so they're talking about this on the broadcast. They think Jonathan Kuminga could be the face of this franchise when Steph retires. Enjoy the lottery every single fucking year, okay? Enjoy it every single season. Enjoy it every single season if that's the case. He's uber athletic and sometimes you just bet on that athleticism and it pays off for sure. I get all of that. Butler and Draymond on the same team, they're going to punch each other in 5 minutes. Maybe they need that. No, there is no next up. Kuminga's a cool third or fourth guy. If your hope is Kuminga is going to be your second option right now next to Steph, and then also they use a more like by committee approach. But he's going to be the face of the franchise moving forward? Yeah, fucking right. I don't think they think that, by the way. Why would they not have given him the contract he's wanted if that was the case? Warriors sold if they get Jimmy. But your window is Steph Curry. They're in this weird spot where you see teams find themselves in, like the Lakers in of Kobe's career, even though they fucked that, where it's like, we owe it to this guy. And it's going to suck the 4 or 5 years after he retires, and we're paying the price for this, but we owe it to him. What's the deal to get Jimmy? I talked about it in my video. There's definitely ways they can get it. LeBron to Golden State, I saw that too. I don't know what the hell that's all about. I'm not sure what that's all about. But this leads us to a Saturday in-season tournament experience for the ages in Las Vegas. Tickets as low as $28, folks. Get in there. Atlanta against Milwaukee. I had Milwaukee. I had Houston beating Milwaukee as my prediction in the championship, and I'm standing by that. Milwaukee's playing really well lately. If they play like how they did against the Magic, I think they'll probably lose this game. But hey, the Hawks, Onyeka Okongwu, we've talked about him being a disappointment this season in a lot of ways for Atlanta. One of the things he's very good at, one of the few things, is he's pretty damn good at guarding Giannis, actually. So they do have that going for them. Atlanta beat the Bucks a few days ago, yeah. So this will be a fun game. I mean, Milwaukee's only 3.5-point favorites. And then OKC and Houston. Woo! We know this one. These two teams met earlier this season. The Thunder blew them out. But then you had that crazy game in Houston where the Rockets won. This will be a fun one. OKC Houston is absolutely must-watch. Must-watch television. Hawks winning it all feels like a good bet. They were by far the biggest underdog to win it all going into this. Betting-wise, obviously. So I'm excited for this one, man. OKC Houston is proof that it's a youngs man league. Yeah, I mean, you got two of the most athletic teams in the NBA going up against each other. In theory, a team like the Rockets, you could give the Thunder some problems. They rebound the ball incredibly well. They get a lot of offensive rebounds, the Rockets do. They crash the glass incredibly hard. That's why you go out and you get an Isaiah Hartenstein, man. So we shall see. I had the Hawks beating OKC. Yeah. Did you really? I'm sticking with my prediction. Rockets over the Bucks in the final. That's my prediction. Stamp it in. I'm riding with that. Trey, take us to the promised land. The Hawks winning it would be great.